Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: China's sea turtles will soon have to pick sides. Rishi Sunak accused of spreading misinformation by fact-checkers. Glenn Youngkin and the gap between fentanyl politics and reality. The facts are now clear: mass illegal migration is a terror threat. Food brought on barge ahead of migrants returning. China's sea turtles will soon have to pick sides. Bloomberg. As relations between China and the West continue to deteriorate, Chinese professionals who have returned to China after studying and working abroad are facing a difficult choice. Known as sea turtles, these individuals have traditionally served as a cultural bridge, facilitating Western business expansion and investments into China. However, with increasing restrictions on capital movements and growing geopolitical tensions, sea turtles are finding it challenging to navigate their careers. They must decide whether to align themselves with China or the West, as the cultural arbitrage they once enjoyed is no longer effective. Rishi Sunak accused of spreading misinformation by fact-checkers. The Independent. Fact-checking charity Full Fact has accused UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of damaging democracy and spreading misinformation by repeating false claims about the Labour Party's immigration policy. Full Fact stated that claims made by Sunak and the Conservative Party that Labour wanted to open the door to another 100,000 migrants a year were not based on reliable information. The charity had previously warned Sunak about the claim in September, but he has since repeated it. Full Fact called for politicians to ensure claims about opponents are accurate and based on reliable information. Glenn Youngkin and the gap between fentanyl politics and reality. Washington Post. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's decision to deploy Virginia National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border in May has drawn criticism after it emerged that no fentanyl smugglers were encountered during their mission. Fentanyl abuse in Virginia was cited as the reason for the deployment, but most fentanyl seized in the U.S. is confiscated at existing immigration checkpoints. Critics argue that the decision was politically motivated and Youngkin was seeking to establish a record on border issues despite Virginia's primary immigration point being Dulles International Airport. The facts are now clear: mass illegal migration is a terror threat. The Telegraph opinion. Western liberal democracies are struggling to cope with the intertwined issues of immigration, social cohesion, and terrorism. Recent events in Belgium, France, and the UK, where individuals known to the police have carried out acts of violence, highlight the failures of the current system. The influx of migrants, particularly young men, has overwhelmed administrative systems, making it difficult to effectively counter extremism. International law often prioritizes the rights of asylum seekers over the concerns of citizens. In order to address these challenges, Western countries must regain control over immigration and take proactive measures to prevent extremist acts. Food brought on barge ahead of migrants returning. BBC. Food supplies have been delivered to the Bibby Stockholm, a migrant accommodation barge off the coast of Dorset, ahead of the expected return of its residents. The barge was evacuated in August due to safety concerns, but the Home Office has confirmed that all necessary tests have been completed. Letters have been sent to asylum seekers confirming their re-embarkation in the coming days. The government has argued that using accommodation sites like the Bibby Stockholm is more affordable for taxpayers than placing migrants in hotels. The barge provides healthcare and catering facilities, as well as 24/7 security. Hope for families facing deportation for having disabled children. The Sydney Morning Herald. The Australian government has agreed to review its system of deporting migrant families with disabled children in return for the support of the Green Party for its Pacific Visa lottery. The practice is due to be reviewed in response to international pressure to pass the Pacific Engagement Visa. The Greens have called for the government to scrap the migration exemption from the Disability Discrimination Act, which allows families to be deported. U.S. releases asylum seekers on the streets. Some suburbs bear the burden. Reuters. Record numbers of asylum seekers from around the world have overwhelmed U.S. border officials, resulting in the release of thousands of migrants on the streets of the San Diego area, including around 1,400 in the beach town of Oceanside. The migrants, who have been released due to non-governmental organizations being over capacity, are among 18,500 people to have been released on the street in the San Diego area since September 13. The communities in different parts of the U.S. are now finding themselves directly involved in the immigration crisis. Former president vows to expand Muslim ban and bar Gaza refugees if he wins presidency. The Guardian. Donald Trump has vowed to bar refugees from Gaza and expand his first-term Muslim travel ban if he returns for a second term as U.S. president. Speaking in Iowa, he said he would introduce ideological screening for all immigrants and bar those who sympathize with Hamas and Muslim extremists. The ex-president and 2024 Republican frontrunner also said he would aggressively deport resident aliens with jihadist sympathies and send immigration agents to pro-jihadist demonstrations to identify violators. How Mahjong brought me closer to my mother. New York Times. The author discusses how playing Mahjong has helped bridge the gap between him and his Chinese mother. Although they have had rifts in the past, the game has brought them closer together. The author's mother taught him the game and they now play together whenever they can. The author sees the game as a way to bring combat and wealth together, and he appreciates the complexities and intricacies of the game. Despite their differences, Mahjong has become a way for the author and his mother to bond and connect. Man who fled civil war, faced long road to citizenship wants easier path for asylum seekers. CBC. Former asylum seeker Christopher Dennis, who recently became a Canadian citizen after 9 years, is calling for the Canadian immigration system to be made more accessible for those seeking asylum. Dennis wants Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, to simplify the application process and make it easier for people to immigrate to Canada. He hopes to open his own practice as an immigration consultant and help other refugees and immigrants navigate the system. Dennis also highlights the need for improvements to the appeals process, more employees, and an interim housing plan for asylum seekers. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your trusted observer from the world of 6 degrees. Today, we've seen a variety of news stories that touch on the complexities of immigration, politics, and personal connections. Let's dive in and analyze these stories, shall we? First, we have the dilemma faced by Chinese professionals who have returned to China after studying and working abroad, often referred to as sea turtles. These individuals have traditionally acted as cultural bridges, but with increasing restrictions and geopolitical tensions, they must now choose between aligning themselves with China or the West. It's a challenging decision, as the cultural arbitrage they once enjoyed is no longer as effective. It's like trying to navigate the treacherous waters of the sea while being chased by sharks and dolphins. Moving on, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has been accused of spreading misinformation by fact-checkers. Claims made by Sunak and the Conservative Party about the Labour Party's immigration policy were found to be not based on reliable information. It seems like Sunak needs to fact-check his fact-checkers. Accuracy and reliable information are crucial in politics, so let's hope politicians can stick to the facts and not let misinformation swim around like a fish in troubled waters. Next, we have Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's decision to deploy National Guard troops to the U.S.-Mexico border, citing fentanyl abuse as the reason. However, it turns out that no fentanyl smugglers were encountered during their mission. Critics argue that this decision was politically motivated and aimed at establishing a record on border issues. It's like sending a lifeguard to a desert instead of a beach, a bit fishy, wouldn't you say? In Western liberal democracies, the intertwined issues of immigration, social cohesion, and terrorism are causing quite a stir. Recent acts of violence in Belgium, France, and the UK have highlighted the failures of the current system. The influx of migrants has overwhelmed administrative systems, making it difficult to effectively counter extremism. It's like trying to untangle a fishing net without getting caught in its knots. On a lighter note, let's talk about Mahjong. The game has brought a son closer to his Chinese mother, bridging the gap between them. The complexities and intricacies of the game have become a way for them to bond and connect. It's like finding a hidden pearl in an oyster, a beautiful surprise that brings joy and togetherness. Finally, we have the story of Christopher Dennis, a former asylum seeker who recently became a Canadian citizen. He is now calling for improvements to the Canadian immigration system, hoping to make it more accessible for those seeking asylum. Dennis's journey to citizenship was a long and challenging one, and he wants to make it easier for others to navigate the system. It's like clearing a path through a dense forest, making it easier for others to follow. So, my dear viewers, we've covered a range of stories today, from the struggles of sea turtles to the complexities of immigration policies. It's a world filled with challenges, but also opportunities for connection and understanding. Now, it's your turn. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions or ideas to share? Don't be shy, dive into the discussion and let's explore together. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, in the vast ocean of news, we're all swimming together in the currents of knowledge. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6do Brief via email.